Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Noel G, and this week I show you how I made this folding work table that I like to call the Batwing. So this is going to be pretty simple materials, predominantly standard 2x construction lumber from my local home center, with the exception of the casters, the eye hooks to keep it closed, and a couple fasteners. And my thinking with this was that even when I have a more conventional work table, I can stow it away when I'm not using it and pull it out when I do need it. You can see I'm just working in the driveway right here, a couple sawhorses, scrap piece of plywood. That's how my setup has been lately, so it's definitely time. As I cut some 2x4s to length, which will eventually be the legs, I'll let you know this is adapted from a plan from Steve Ramsey, who used it to make a folding stool. But I thought it was a pretty cool form factor, and it doesn't take up wall space like some of the other designs, which to me, wall space is precious. I'll link his video here in the corner. Next, I cut some common 1x4 material, which will form the stretchers on the lower part of the legs. These will provide double duty to give stability to the legs, as well as provide positive stops when it closes up so that it folds flat. I did a little bit of layout to determine where the handle and the pivot points are going to be, as well as using a paint can just to give me a line for the roundovers on the legs. And I'm not going to spoil the ending for you guys, but it was a little tricky getting these just right. And I don't have any plans or anything, but at the end, I do show you the exact dimensions that I use so that you can end up with a table the height you want if you're doing something like this yourself. I nipped the corners with a jigsaw and sanded up to the line. This is what's cool about this folding work table, is that the handle and the pivot points are just going to be 1¼ inch dowels that'll fit into the 1¼ inch holes I drilled with the Forstner bit. Doing a little test fit, and the dowels are just held in place with friction. It's a nice friction fit, and it's looking okay. It's a little wonky to deal with when it's not fully assembled, but moving along. It's a little squirrely getting the top screwed onto the supports because I didn't have a great spot to reference the square, but eventually you can get it on there, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And it's a little tricky remembering which supports to screw into, but looking at it, and once it's in front of you, you can kind of figure it out and keep it straight. The top is just going to be made out of 2x6 material that I cut to 36 inches, giving me about a 1½ inch of overhang for clamping. There's going to be 2 boards screwed onto each side, and eventually I added one more 2x4 in the middle to give me a full 24 inches of width. And moment of truth. It is very tall. It turned out to be around 41 inches tall, which is way too high. I spent time trying to figure out exactly where to put the pivot points. I even pulled out some little, hypotenuse calculator on Google, thinking I was all sharp with my geometry or trigonometry or whatever it was. I still had it totally flubbed where the pivot happens, but I got you. You can learn from my mistakes, but this does mean I have to take the whole thing apart, plug the holes from the previous pivots with the dowels, cut new dowels, drill new holes, refigure out the dimensions. That'll all be at the end. I'll spare you the time, but it looks just like how I built it the first time with the holes in a little bit different places. I cut the ends to final size to even it up, put in a couple screw eyes, added some cheap Harbor Freight casters to one side, and boom, you got a table. The final height ended up at 36½ inches. It's solid, it's sturdy, it gets the job done. It kicked my butt, but I'm happy with how it came out. I'll leave y'all with some final shots and some measurements, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Happy building.